This is a short presentation on the concept of comfort zones. You've probably heard about comfort zones before. We're going to explore a little bit about what they are and why it's important in the grand scheme of things to push through your comfort zones and push through your boundaries. So what's a comfort zone? Well, it's a state in which we feel safe and at ease. We're not doing anything new or difficult when we're in that place, and only little effort is required to be there. So in this picture I've represented you in that nice green safe bubble in the centre there. So what I want you to first consider is, can you think of a situation in your life where you're in your comfort zone? So somewhere where you're always doing the same things you've done for a long time and you feel secure and it's really easy for you to be there. So the size of that comfort zone will be different for everybody, and we'll have different things inside it, as we're all individuals, so we have different experiences and different feelings about life. So what about outside the comfort zone then? What does that look like? Well, that's going to contain things that we're a little bit uncertain about. We've maybe been new experiences that we've not tried before. They probably hold lots of uncertainty for us, and there's probably a degree of fear in there for us as well. So again, think of an experience that you wouldn't put in your comfort zone, you don't feel comfortable doing, but it's maybe sitting there in what we call that stretch zone of something that if you tried to do it, it would make you feel very unsure and uncertain. The example I've given here is really common for a lot of people. It's meeting new people. So for a lot of us, we maybe have had the same friends for a long time, and the thought of going into a situation where people don't know you and you're maybe worried about what folks think of you, you're going to have to make an effort to get to know people. That can make people feel a little bit uneasy. But it could be absolutely anything outside of that comfort zone that we're talking about here. It could also be things like public speaking or speaking out in class or giving a presentation. So what is it then that lies between something that's in our comfort zone and that next zone out? We call that the stretch zone, something that we're not comfortable doing. I've drawn a red ring around the comfort zone, and that's really just to show you that there is a barrier, I guess, for a lot of us there, from trying new things and experimenting and just doing something different. And that red ring really is fear. So for a lot of us, we're scared of trying something new. So that fear may be to do with fear of failing or the perception of failing. For a lot of us, we're worried about looking silly or even making a mistake. So we've identified this thing that we're worried about doing. It doesn't feel comfortable for us. In this instance, I've used the example of meeting new people. How are we then going to make that be part of our comfort zone? Make it so it's something we're okay with doing and we don't get stressed or worried or frightened about doing it. Well, it's really easy. It's basically about repetition, which initially will involve you pushing through that red zone that we showed you earlier, that fear. And a phrase that someone gave to me once, which has been really helpful, is feel the fear and do it anyway. So if you do something that you're unsure of enough times, it's going to become much more comfortable to you. And before you know it, it's going to become part of your comfort zone. So it's going to be added to that list of things that you feel okay and comfortable with doing. So here's another example of something that might be out of our comfort zone. The example here I've given is perhaps answering a question in class. So what is it that we can do to make that seem not so scary to us? So we sometimes see our friends, our colleagues, who are quite happy to do this thing that we're worried about, but for us it holds a real fear. So let's look at some practical things. Well, what we could do is we could perhaps set ourselves a goal of answering once in class over a whole week, and then over time you could build up to how often you do it. So in that process of repeating the action, it will become much more practiced, and will also make you feel much more comfortable. So in other words, the more you do it, the more your confidence grows. And this in turn will give you confidence to try new things. So just like in the example previously about meeting new people, the fear of answering a question in class with practice and persistence can over time become something that is added to your list of things in your comfort zone, things that you're happy to do. Now imagine doing that process with lots of different things over time. You've maybe started with speaking out in class, answering questions. Before you know it, that becomes a lot easier. Maybe meeting new people. You've pushed yourself through that initial fear and uncertainty to being able to do that a lot more easily. There'll be loads of different things that at the moment are not within your level of experience that are just waiting for you to discover, and your comfort zone will get bigger as you start to carry on with this process. So before you know it, look what's happened to your comfort zone. It's not a perfect circle, but it's had all these little bits added onto it, and it's become much bigger in size. As I've already mentioned, it's going to take practice. You're going to need to push through a little bit of fear. But once you do that, it's also going to open up new opportunities for you, and it's going to broaden your horizons about what you're really capable of. And that's really important in helping us become the best that we can be. So far we've talked about your comfort zone and how we can make that larger. We've talked about the stretch zone, that's the orange zone, and how we can over time move things from that area to become part of your comfort zone. So the last zone I want to talk about with you is called the panic zone, and these are experiences that feel just a bit too far. So if someone had mentioned to you to do something that for you exists in this zone, it would likely induce panic in you. It's just, there's no way that you're going to do it. So what's in this panic zone will vary from person to person, and that's just as the things in your comfort zone and your stretch zone will also vary from person to person, and that will be based on various factors, which might include some really negative past experiences that you've just had in your life, or just that you have very limited experience of new things, full stop. But what we find over time is that just like the things in the stretch zone, some things in this outer red zone may not seem so impossible. So to manage this though, we're going to have to be careful not to push things too far too quickly. As we were talking about with moving this thing from the stretch zone into the comfort zone, we can build up to things very slowly. So we can perhaps set ourselves smaller goals over time, which inevitably will allow us to do that thing that initially will seem too difficult for us. Finally, I'm going to talk a little bit about the relevance of understanding what comfort zones are, and hopefully this will help put them in context for you to help you understand things a little bit more. So they're relevant because they raise awareness of how we limit ourselves. We actually put ourselves in a confined space, if you like. We limit ourselves based on what people tell us about ourselves and the fear of the repercussions of stepping out of those comfort zones. So if we can raise awareness of how we limit ourselves, we understand that, then we can learn to make changes in ourselves. And well, that's important because what we want to do is we want to eventually make our comfort zone bigger. And this will lead eventually to us broadening our own experience, so we're going to be open to new exciting things happening in our lives. It will help us develop our confidence, and inevitably will increase our level of happiness and self-worth because we've built our confidence and our self-esteem. If we don't do those things and we stay in a very limited green bubble, our little comfort zone, our life can become very unfulfilling and boring because we're always doing the same things and we're frightened of doing anything new. Another important aspect of understanding comfort zones and why they're relevant is the knowledge it gives us to help other people. So just think how empowering that is, to know about this thing we've talked about, how it can have an impact on us and how it can have an impact in others, and how you can actually help people become better themselves. In the context of Leadership for Life, we're hopefully equipping you with skills for better self-knowledge and also knowledge of others. And that inevitably is going to lead to stronger relationships with people, not just only in Leadership for Life, but in all parts of your life. And also will enable you to help people around you become better. So that's got to be a win-win situation